How I became fluent in English without leaving my country. If you think you have to move to an English-speaking country to become fluent, I have some good news for you: you don't. I know because I did it myself. I went from hating English as a kid to speaking fluently, all while staying in my home country. No expensive schools, no native-speaking teachers, and no fancy trips abroad. This is my story. When I was a kid, I hated English. I first started learning English when I was 6 or 7 years old, but honestly, I hated it. It felt like just another boring school subject. I had no idea why I needed it. None of my family or friends spoke English, and I never thought I would actually use it in real life. So, like most kids, I did the bare minimum to pass my tests. But everything changed when I turned 15 or 16. That's when I realized that if I wanted to get into a good university in Moscow, I had to pass an English exam. Suddenly, English wasn't just a school subject anymore, it became my key to the future. I told myself, if I have to learn English anyway, why not make it fun? That's when my real English learning journey began. The biggest challenge: speaking English. By the time I entered university, I had improved a lot. I could read well, understand movies, and even write decent essays. But there was one huge problem: I was terrified of speaking. I still remember the first time I had to talk to a real native speaker. I was 19 years old, and my heart was racing. I kept thinking, what if I make a mistake? What if they don't understand me? What if they laugh at my accent? And guess what? The conversation was a disaster. I froze. I couldn't think of the right words. My sentences were messy. But that moment changed everything for me. I realized that if I wanted to be fluent, I had to start speaking, no matter how bad I was at first. How I improved my English at home. Since I couldn't afford expensive classes with native-speaking teachers, I had to get creative. So, I built my own English environment, right in my home country. 1. I created my own English world. I made sure that English was everywhere in my life. I changed the language on my phone, my computer, and even my social media apps. I also started doing everyday tasks in English. Writing my to-do lists in English. Keeping a daily journal in English. Thinking in English whenever possible. Little by little, English became a normal part of my life. 2. I watched TV shows like crazy. Instead of studying boring grammar books, I watched tons of TV shows in English. My favorite? Desperate Housewives. At first, it was super hard. I couldn't understand much, and I had to use subtitles. But I had a system. First, I watched with English subtitles to catch new words. Then, I rewatched the same episode without subtitles to test myself. Finally, I picked out interesting phrases and tried to use them in real life. By watching hundreds of hours of TV shows, I learned how real people talk, not just textbook English. 3. I practiced shadowing every day. If you want to sound natural in English, you have to practice speaking out loud. So, I started shadowing, which means listening to a native speaker and repeating exactly what they say. Here's how I did it. I listened to a sentence from a TV show, audiobook, or YouTube video. I paused the audio and repeated the sentence out loud, mimicking the pronunciation and tone. I compared my voice with the original and fixed my mistakes. At first, it felt awkward. But after months of doing this every day, my pronunciation improved dramatically. 4. I recorded myself speaking. One of the best, and scariest, things I did was recording myself speaking in English. Every week, I picked a topic and spoke for 1 to 2 minutes. Then, I listened to the recording and asked myself, do I sound clear? Am I using correct grammar? Where can I improve? Over time, I saw real progress, and it made me feel more confident. 5. I spoke to myself, yes, really. Since I didn't have native speakers to practice with, I talked to myself in English, all the time. For example, when I was cooking, I described what I was doing. Now I'm chopping the onions. I need to fry them for 5 minutes. When I walked outside, I described what I saw. The weather is so nice today. The sky is clear and blue. Before going to sleep, I summarized my day in English. It felt silly at first, but it helped me think in English naturally. 6. I tracked my progress. Whenever I felt unmotivated, I looked back at my progress. I kept a journal where I wrote new words I learned, grammar mistakes I made, sentences I struggled with. Seeing how much I had improved kept me motivated to keep going. Speaking to native speakers, finally. At 20 years old, I finally visited New York City for the first time. By then, my English was B2, C1 level, and I had achieved that without leaving my home country. At first, I was still nervous. But then I realized something important. Native speakers don't care about my mistakes. They just wanted to communicate. That's when I finally felt free to speak English with confidence. So, do you need to move abroad to learn English? No. Of course, living in an English-speaking country helps, but it's not necessary. You can become fluent right from your home, just like I did. Here's what really matters. Make learning fun, watch movies, listen to music, and enjoy the process. Stay consistent, practice a little every day, even if it's just 10 minutes. Don't be afraid of mistakes, they are part of the learning process. Talk to real people, even if it's just talking to yourself at first. And most importantly, don't give up. If I can do it, so can you. Final words. If you found this story helpful, keep going on your language learning journey. Learning English is not about being perfect, it's about making progress. And trust me, you're already on the right path. Keep learning, keep speaking, and most importantly, have fun with it. Questions and answers. How she became fluent in English without leaving her country. 1. Does someone need to move to an English-speaking country to become fluent? No, they don't. She became fluent without leaving her home country. 2. How did she learn English? She learned English by herself without attending expensive schools, taking classes with native speakers, or traveling abroad. When she was a kid, she hated English. 3. At what age did she start learning English? At 6 or 7 years old. 4. Why did she hate English as a kid? Because it felt like a boring school subject, and she didn't see the need for it. 5. Did anyone in her family or friends speak English? No, no one around her spoke English, so she didn't think she would ever need it. 6. What changed her mind about learning English? At 15 or 16 years old, she realized that she needed to pass an English exam to get into a good university in Moscow. 7. How did she change her attitude toward English? She decided to make learning English fun instead of just studying it for exams. The biggest challenge: speaking English. 8. What was her biggest challenge in learning English? She was terrified of speaking. 9. How did she feel when talking to a native speaker for the first time? She felt nervous and scared, thinking about making mistakes. 10. What were her biggest fears when speaking English? What if I make a mistake? What if they don't understand me? What if they laugh at my accent? 11. What happened during her first conversation with a native speaker? It was a disaster. She froze, forgot words, and her sentences were messy. 12. What did she realize after this experience? She realized that if she wanted to be fluent, she had to start speaking, even if she wasn't good at it yet. How she improved her English at home. 13. Why didn't she take classes with native-speaking teachers? Because she couldn't afford expensive classes, so she had to find creative ways to learn. 14. How did she create her own English world? She changed the language settings on her phone, computer, and social media apps to English. 15. What everyday tasks did she start doing in English? She started writing her to-do lists in English, keeping a daily journal in English, thinking in English whenever possible, watching TV shows. 16. What TV show did she watch to improve her English? She watched Desperate Housewives. 17. How did she use subtitles to learn English? First, she watched with English subtitles to learn new words. Then, she re-watched without subtitles to test her understanding. Finally, she used interesting phrases in real life. 18. What did watching TV shows teach her? It helped her learn how real people talk, not just textbook English. Shadowing practice. 19. What is shadowing? Shadowing is listening to a native speaker and repeating exactly what they say. 20. What 3 steps did she follow for shadowing? Listen to a sentence from a TV show, audiobook, or YouTube video. Pause and repeat it out loud, copying the pronunciation. Compare her voice with the original and fix mistakes. 21. How did shadowing help her? It improved her pronunciation and speaking rhythm. Recording herself speaking. 22. Why did she record herself speaking? To track her progress and find areas to improve. 23. What questions did she ask herself when listening to recordings? Do I sound clear? Am I using correct grammar? Where can I improve? 24. How did recording her voice help her? It helped her gain confidence and see real progress over time. Talking to herself in English. 25. Why did she talk to herself in English? Because she had no native speakers to practice with. 26. What are some ways she practiced speaking to herself? Describing what she was doing while cooking. Talking about the weather while walking outside. Summarizing her day before going to sleep. 27. Did she feel silly doing this at first? Yes, but over time, it helped her think in English naturally. Tracking progress. 28. How did she track her English progress? She kept a journal where she wrote new words she learned, grammar mistakes she made, sentences she struggled with. 29. How did tracking progress help her? It kept her motivated because she could see her improvement. Speaking to native speakers, finally. 30. When did she visit New York City for the first time? At 20 years old. 31. What was her English level at that time? Between B2 and C1. 32. How did she feel when she first spoke to native speakers in New York? At first, she was nervous, but she realized that native speakers don't care about mistakes. 33. How did this realization help her? It made her feel free to speak English without fear. Do you need to move abroad to learn English? 34. Do you have to live in an English-speaking country to become fluent? No, you don't. She became fluent without leaving her home country. 35. What are the key lessons she learned? Make learning fun, watch movies, listen to music, and enjoy the process. Stay consistent, practice a little every day. Don't be afraid of mistakes, they are part of learning. Talk to real people, even if it means talking to yourself at first. 36. What is the most important message from this story? Don't give up. If she could become fluent, so can you. Final words. 37. What should learners focus on instead of perfection? They should focus on progress, not perfection. 38. What is her final piece of advice? Keep learning, keep speaking, and most importantly, have fun. So, that's how I became fluent in English without ever leaving my home country. I know learning English can feel overwhelming at times, but trust me, you don't need to live abroad or spend a lot of money to become fluent. What really matters is staying consistent, making it fun, and believing in yourself. If I could do it, so can you. Now, I want to hear from you. What's your biggest challenge in learning English? Comment below. I read every single one of your messages. And if you want even more tips, resources, and personal updates from me, make sure to sign up for my free newsletter. The link is in the description. Don't forget to like this video, subscribe for more, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss a new upload. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.